anything that is in your environment that's another Dasein. By virtue of sharing an environment with another, you are with them. And your being is together a being in the world. That is, the assignment you can make to yourself has to take into account those Daseins who are making assignments to themselves too. And you know this is the case if you ever create an involvement and make significance that is insignificant to everybody else in the world around you. Because you won't be able to persist. You'll have to change. It's just the way it is. You can rail against the machine all you want. You are the machine, right? You can't get out of it, is what Heidegger is pointing out here, right? Look, that we share this space together isn't just oh, I'm going to go be a student for a little while at Prairie State and then I'm going to go out. You are us. We are you, is what Heidegger is pointing out here. In a really deeply fundamental way. You are not just this body that goes in and out of places. The people in the world around you are the world of yours. And you are theirs. That's what being with means. That's how it happens existentially. And you may say, well, then how do we prove that? Well, on page 157, he brings up solicitude. We'll read on page 158. Look at the very last paragraph of this, well, the second to last paragraph, but it looks like it's the last paragraph, but it means, with regard to its positive modes, solicitude has two extreme possibilities. It can, as it were, take away care from the other and put itself in his position in concern. It can leap in for him. Yeah, okay, good. We're right here at leap in. And then if you look at the last paragraph, in contrast to this, there's also the possibility of a kind of solicitude which does not so much leap in for the other as leap ahead of him. And his existential potentiality for being, not in order to take away his care, but rather to give it back to him authentically as such for the first time. All right. I'm going to spend a few minutes explaining these two notions. Because here you're going to start seeing some of Heidegger's ethical bent. So, given that what you are as a self is a certain amount of persistent significance that exists across experience and changes, right? That's how I'm going to modify Heidegger's definition of the self. Significance is a product of having a world. Having a world is a product of making an assignment to yourself of what you are there to be, right? So, to speak really specifically, you have all made the assignment to be a student to your Dasein. This is how Dasein is, right? Studenting. And that's a possible way for you to be among all kinds of other possibilities. And this is the possibility that you've sort of been, you've absorbed, you've assigned to yourself. Now, that means some things have significance and other things don't. And to the extent that you really invest in that possibility, that you really care about that possibility, then that possibility becomes you, and all significance gets significance based on that commitment of what you have defined as you. That is care, right? So, a good example of this. When I first started law school, my first semester, I had some really hard classes, and it mattered to me to do well. Throw myself into that. I really cared. So the professor said stuff, wrote it down. I studied it, I made little 3x5 cards, I practiced answering questions, I bought a couple of extra supplemental books to help me work through problems in contracts and in personal injury stuff and all this, right? Because, man, being an attorney was something I cared a lot about. That was a possibility I threw myself or assigned to myself, and therefore it had significance. And then certain things became significant as a result of that assignment. these books, these assignments, those tests. But what do you think happens over time with me, just like everybody else? What happens to the amount of care I put into that thing? It's gonna relax a little bit, right? And then I'm like, well, passing is good enough for now. I don't really care if I get all A's, whatever, right? So now I go to classes, and I'm like, I don't need to take notes. I'll remember that. I got my computer up. I'm working on other things, uploading videos for my classes, and then paying attention a lot. I'm like, I can multitask. My first semester, I didn't think like that at all, right? Everything got put away, just focused on significance. So the more that I assigned myself this thing that I wanted to be, this possibility for me to be, the more significance those things that were ready to hand to accomplish that way of being, the more significance they had. Or we just say it this way, the more I cared, right? My care got focused on things. And that's what Dasein is. Dasein is care, more generally. Care can get broken up now into two ways. Concern, which is with dealings of equipment, or solicitude, which is other people, right? Now, it depends on what possibility you assign to yourself, which one of these becomes more or less important, right? Like when I'm at law school, do you think I care a lot about the other kids around me in the class? Not much. Solicitude, concern, right? It's up. I care more about these certain things. Is there someone for whom I have more solicitude to than others? The professor, right? Got to make sure I do things his way and not just in general. I got to pay attention to what he wants or she wants or whatever it is, right? Okay, so what I am and what makes up my world is care. That's all that I have. The only thing that I bring into this world that's uniquely mine, and the only thing that disappears from this world, meaning the earth, when I die, is care. The things I cared about, right? Now, how many of you know anything about your great-grandma? Great-great-grandma? Or even great-grandma? Do you know a name? Maybe a name, right? Do you know how they felt about pink? What their favorite color was? Your great-great-grandma, you know her favorite color?
My great-great-grandma? No, I know my great-grandma.
Your great-grandma, yeah. How they felt when they got yelled at by their boss? Do you know what they cared about? Not in the sense of like they probably cared about their kids and they probably cared about their house. That's not knowing care. That's just giving a list of categorical things in somebody's life, right? What would it mean to know what someone else cares? To know their care? Can anybody know your care? Can anybody care like you care for the things you care about except you? Nobody else can do that, right? So that's all that you have. And yet, how did you get care? And what do you do with care? It's about the people you share the world with. This is how care gets split up and thrown about and assigned to things, right? This is how significance comes about. You're just care. You're not a body that runs around and does stuff. You're just this little spot of care. And it's sometimes really big and sometimes it's very small, depending on what you throw your care out into and how much you care about. And the more you can care, the bigger you are. And the smaller that you care, the smaller you are, right? We're going to talk about this more when we get to Heidegger, or to Spinoza. When you get angry about something, this world of care that could be potentially huge, what becomes of your care? It shrinks down to something small, right? The size of a person can be measured by the size of the things that make them angry. And if little things make you angry, what does that say about you? Because this can be true, because Dasein isn't a thing, it's care. That's what it is. And the only thing that makes your life worth living is the way you use your care. That's it. And if you let your care go off to things that are insignificant, ultimately, that's on you. And you can do that And you see it by the things that make people angry. If I get really mad at my daughter for coloring with a crayon on a wall, what did I just do to my whole world of care? It went to just a little mark on a piece of paper. And that mark can also sometimes be this, right? And what happens to all the things you could care about in this whole universe of possible things to care about? They all become insignificant, and the only thing that matters is that. Your world just shrunk to a really small little letter or a little mark on a piece of wall, right? That's what Dasein is care. That's it. Now, everybody else knows that about you, and I know that about you, and you know that about me, and we all care about care. And we care about other people's care. We care about how people care about things, because if you don't care about the things I care about, what does that mean about the things I care about? They may not matter. I might lose those things. So it's really important for me to make you care about the things I care about, to get you to care like I care, to control care in your care if I can, right? So whenever one Dasein tries to take over the care of another Dasein, what that's called is leaping in. It's like saying, okay, let me take that thing, let me take that care of yours, I'm going to grab it, I'm going to do some stuff with it and give it back to you, now you care for that, right? Here's a great example of how this happens. Parent really wants their kid to become a doctor someday. In order to become a doctor someday, you got to get good grades. In order to get good grades, you got to do not just good grades in like English and history. You got to get good grades in science, technology, engineering, math, right? You got to go STEM. And if you get an A on your science fair project, then that's going to look good for applications to get into the right high schools. That's what you have to do now in Chicago, right? And in order to, why do you want to get into the right high schools? So that you can get into the right colleges. And why do you want your kid to get in the right colleges? So that they can get into the right graduate school, so that they can become a spine surgeon or a brain surgeon or whatever and make bank and be well respected by everybody. And so, you know, there are tons of parents all over in the world who want this for their kids. And they probably want it in all genuine good faith, love, compassion, empathy, and wonderful parents want their kids to be successful. So now it's the night of the science fair project is due tomorrow, and that kid needs to have a great science fair project so that they can be a doctor someday. And you really want to be a doctor someday, don't you? Yes, Mama. I really want to be a doctor. What's the kid doesn't know what they want to be. But do they already have an assignment for themselves? Does that assignment already have all kinds of significance? Yeah, when did that assignment start? Probably before they were even born, right? In the world as it is. Okay, so the parent takes over the science fair project, gets out the board, makes all the nice little signs on there, and makes it look good, sticks them up just right, sends the kid off to school and says, here is your science fair project. Now, how has that just taken over care? Who should care about what they become? Who's the only one who can care about what they become? The parent? Is the parent going to feel being a doctor when the kid is a doctor? Is the parent going to know the care of a doctor unless they are a doctor? So who's the only one who can care about being a doctor in this scenario? Only the child, right? Only the child can have care for itself. You can't take it away from somebody, but you can try, right? And you try because you make them care about the things that you want them to care about. And when you take that science fair project, this should be something that kid cares about. And if they don't care about it, all right, it's not important to them yet, right? They haven't made the right assignment yet for that kind of care to come. Maybe it'll come later, maybe it won't. I don't know, right? But no, parents won't want to deal with that ambiguity, right? They're not like, well, I'll just wait and see what my kid wants to be. You can't raise kids like that anymore. You can't just say, oh, go out and have fun and something will fall out of the sky for you to be. You got to start shaping them early, right? And when you're going to shape them early, what you're really doing is saying, let me take this thing that is yours, care, Let me fix it up for you and give it back to you, and now you have a project. And we call it your science fair project. He takes it to school and says, this is my science fair project, right? It has mineness. And it is something that is ready to hand, and that he has concern over. And it's equipment in order to get to the right high school, in order to get to the right college, in order to. And the kid is like, yeah, I'm on target to be what I really want to be, which is a heart surgeon or whatever it is, right? And what have the parents done at every step along the way? They leap in, right? Leaping in is this. You take something that is essentially something someone else should care about, and you care in their place. You leap in. Do it for them, give it back to them, all nice and finished, and they accept it. How have I been doing that with you all? This is totally unavoidable, by the way, in present life. We all leap in everywhere. But in this class, how am I leaping in for you all the time? Who decided what you're going to read? Yeah. And that it should matter. That you should care about this, right? Now, why are you in this class to begin with, though? I didn't decide that. I didn't leap in there. I leaped in from the moment this class started, and I keep leaping in, and then trying to give you back care some, right? But here, let me show you why this should matter to you. And if at the end it doesn't, it's because I keep reminding you I'm going to give you a grade at the end of all this. Quizzes are constant reminders that it should matter, right? That you should care. But do you care all on your own? Nah, of course not. You don't even know why you should care. You haven't run into Heidegger yet, till now. If you did know, I think, in my own very condescending way, if you knew, you would want this, right? Still leaping in. But before I leaped in, who leaped in before that? Why are you even here to begin with? Didn't some counselor or some college requirement leap in? Who should care more about how you spend Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 3:25? Who should have the most interest in that? Your Dasein, right? You. Not me.